Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I know I only have 12 minutes, but if you are interested in any of these things that I talk about, I'll be here all day, so please feel free to come and talk to me. So my presentation today is about the collections at the David C. Driskell Center, which is at the University of Maryland in College Park, just a quick metro ride away. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the center and then talk specifically about the archives and our collections, and then talk about some of the projects that we're working on. So this is the front of the David C. Driskell Center, which, like I said, is at the University of Maryland in the Cole Student Activities Building, which is right in the center of campus, which is fantastic. Our building is undergoing some construction right now, but our space is still fully functional. So I just want to talk a little bit about what the mission of the Driskell Center is. I'm going to read it out loud, but these are some highlights. The David C. Driskell Center for the Study of the Visual Arts and Culture of African Americans and the African Diaspora at the University of Maryland, College Park honors the legacy of David C. Driskell, Distinguished University Professor Emeritus of Art, artist, art historian, collector, curator, and philanthropist, by preserving the rich heritage of African American visual arts and culture. Established in 2001, the center provides an intellectual home for artists, museum professionals, art administrators, and scholars who are interested in broadening the fields of African diasporic studies. The Driskell Center is committed to collecting, documenting, and presenting African American art, as well as replenishing and expanding the field. So I've highlighted that bottom part because that's kind of what my position is trying to help do, is to preserve and continue to collect that material. So we fulfill our mission at the Driskell Center by presenting exhibitions. We have an exhibition up now called Shifting African American Women Artists and the Power of Their Gaze, which is a very powerful exhibition. If you haven't been, it's been one of the best that I've seen at the Driskell Center since I've been there. So I encourage you to go. We have generally 2 exhibitions a year based on the semester schedule. We also, as part of those exhibitions, we often produce catalogs or some kind of academic study that's based on the exhibitions, and we try to distribute those to, obviously we sell them, but we also distribute them to libraries and other academic institutions to kind of put that information in the hands of people who want it. We have lectures, conferences, and symposia. Based on our most recent one was a panel discussion that was focused on this exhibition of female artists. That was really excellent. It happened a couple of weeks ago. And we tend to do a big event like that once a year, and then we have smaller events. Last night we had the Thelma Golden lecture. I recognize some faces from that today. And various other lectures and performances and things like that. And then my specialty, the collections, which we have art and archive collections. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about those. So I am not a curator or anything like that, but I wanted to talk about our art collection because at the Driskell Center, we try to look at our art collection not only as this fantastic collection, but also as a resource that's speaking to the archival and the research collections that we have at the Driskell Center. So we have, our collection includes paintings, drawings, prints, mixed media, and 3-dimensional objects. Many of the pieces are off-site right now, but because of the construction happening in our building, but they will be coming back hopefully this summer, knock on wood. We have works by well-known artists, Edward Mitchell Bannister, Romare Bearden, etc., as well as emerging artists such as Vanessa German, Delita Martin, and Nona Faustine. The collection has grown 15-fold since 2007, which is when we moved into our current location, where we have a gallery space and a vault, and it continues to grow as we grow. So the archives collection, these are the kind of touchstones of what we collect on the personal papers of African American artists. the personal papers of collectors, of curators, art historians, and art administrators. and obviously the institutional records at the Driskell Center. We also have a library that is about a little more than 4,000 volumes that is available, and I'll talk about access a little bit later, but it is available for research. This is kind of an old photo, but that's the archive room. So the archival holdings that we have 4 main collections: the Driskell Papers, the Hartman Foundation Papers, the Faith Ringgold Study Room, and the Robert E. Steele Papers. So I'm going to talk about each one specifically, some in more depth than others. The David C. Driskell Papers, I'm sure many of you are familiar with David Driskell, and he's giving a talk, I think, later today, which I'm sure will be as fantastic as usual. His papers were donated to the center in 2011. It was the collection that basically started the archives. A lot of the archivists who are talking today have very established, long-standing archives, and we are very young in comparison, but it is really thanks to this collection that we exist. It is about 150 linear feet of material that includes correspondence, ephemera, exhibition catalogs, photograph slides, and audio-video materials that have been collected over 6 decades. David Driskell was a very fastidious collector. He collected a lot of things and kept them, which is fantastic. It's a really great record of the history of African American art, but also of his relation to it. Funding for our processing was through the Institute of Museum and Library Services from 2011 to 2012. We had a grant, and then in 2013, I actually came on in 2013 when we had the grant from the Clear Foundation. The Driskell Papers are organized into 11 series. Many artists are not very organized people, but David Driskell is. It's actually pretty amazing. So the series are based on the way that he kind of organized his materials. So there are 11 series. The first 9 series are based on kind of the subject matter of the material, and the last 2 series are based on the format of the materials. So we have personal, which tends to have like writings that Driskell did, as well as letters to his family and things like that. Educator, which focuses on his time at UMG and Fisk and other institutions. And then exhibitions is a pretty meaty one. We've got exhibitions that he was part of, but exhibitions that he curated. So we have a really great section on the 2 Centuries exhibition that is actually currently being digitized off-site, but is a really great record of how that exhibition kind of came to be. African American art and diaspora is more ephemeral, so he, like I said, collected everything. So there's a lot of posters and catalogs and such from exhibitions over 6 decades, really. Artists and Individuals is focused on mainly correspondence with artists. So we have correspondence between him and Romare Bearden, Jacob Lawrence, and I'll show you some in a minute. And then another great one is the photographs, which was not actually part of the original donation, but in 2014, David Driskell donated about 1,000 photographs, and the best part is that he was willing to sit down with me and go over each one, and with his extremely fantastic memory, he could tell me where, when, who. It was amazing. So all of those are at item level, so we have that those records. So I wanted to show a couple of my personal favorite things, because it's really hard to choose what to show. On your left, you'll see a personal journal entry that we have in our collection that was from April 1971, when David Driskell met Aaron Douglas. It was after they met, but it was during a conversation that they had at the Fisk Fine Arts Festival, where Aaron Douglas was talking about his piece, Idol of the Deep South, and the star that kind of is coming down. You can kind of see the sketch that David drew, and he's talking about, a lot of people thought that it was this Star of the North, kind of Great Migration, where Aaron Douglas corrected him and said that it was really the red star, kind of a communist imagery, and told David never to tell anyone. So he didn't, but he wrote it down. So, and then there's a letter here from Charles White, which is fantastic. Thank you. And we have quite a bit of correspondence between the two of them. This is a letter from Jacob Lawrence. Didn't really turn out that well, but kind of before they'd ever met, praising David Driskell for his work, and a photograph here of during Jacob Lawrence's exhibition at Fisk. We also have the Hartman Foundation papers, which were given to David Driskell by Mary Beatty Brady. They're not comprehensive, but there is a lot of correspondence between Brady and various Howard University, Fisk University administrators, between her and David Driskell, that are really excellent, kind of this touchstone into that history. Part of the collection includes some exhibition catalogs that the Hartman Foundation put out. They're really great resources. We've had a lot of people who are interested in looking at those. And then there's also correspondence. A lot of it is kind of fragile because it's on onion skin, but we also have the Faith Ringgold study room, which will be opening next month. Faith Ringgold donated her papers, which focus on her works. She put together books of the works that she's done in her past and currently, and then she also has archival materials that focus on some letters and notes, things like that. So we're excited for that to open soon. So if you're on our mailing list at the Driskell Center, you will get announcements of those, but keep checking on our website for that opening. And then this is a collection that we'll be processing this summer. It's Robert E. Steele was the former executive director of the Driskell Center, and he kept very fastidious records of his collecting habits. We, like you had mentioned before, we're open to anyone. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be affiliated with the University of Maryland, and we're accessible by appointment. I'm the archive staff, so as long as I'm there, you can come, and I'm always there. But our collection is cataloged into a past perfect database that is searchable by keyword, and we also have finding aids for our processed collections. So you can go to our website here, and you can do searches for materials. Our art collection is also put into past perfect. And I'm going to talk really quickly, I'm sorry. We have some digitization projects. We're working with the University of Maryland's AdHum project, which is focusing on teaching what digital humanities is. They're using African American archival collections as testbed collections to kind of teach people how to learn about, manage, and produce digital humanities projects. We're also working on a traveling exhibition for the Driskell Papers that will be on like panels and will be free to HBCUs who are interested in it. And as always, we're interested in acquiring more archival collections. And this is my contact information, as well as the Driskell Center's contact information. Thank you very much.